In April 2019, the Nigerian government set the minimum wage for its salary earners at 30,000 naira, and that has remained the same over the years. But as it is now, the minimum cost of healthy living for an adult per month at the beginning of 2022 stood at 40,980 naira as reported. So, an upward increase may not be out of place, but the question is, will that address the challenges ahead of the individual with rising inflation ravaging the world at large? Experts say this is not far from the fact that inflation has been going up and in part due to rising food and energy prices despite the global slowdown. The Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, revealed this at the Nigeria Labour Congress public presentation titled Contemporary History of Working Class Struggle in Abuja. The minister said the adjustment had become important to reflect what is happening globally. He said, and I quote, "The inflation is worldwide, hence the government proposed plan to adjust the minimum wage in conformity with what is happening now. Adjustment to that effect has started with the Academic Staff Union of University," he said. His submission concludes with this statement that in the current economic situation, the current minimum wage of 30,000 naira will not, in the present economic reality, pay workers' transportation fares to work for a month, probably not even up to a month. It is against this background that Nigeria Today will focus on the proposed plan by the federal government to increase the salary of its workers. Welcome to the program. I am Lydia Odijochi. Thank you for joining us. With me in the studio is our senior economist and a regular face on our programs, Dr. Emeka Okengu. He is the former United Nations consultant and many more. Good to have you join us, Dr. Emeka.
Nice to be here.
Also in the studio is a friend of the house as well and a political economist, Yusha'u Aliyu. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much.
Now, let me get to my first question, Dr. Okengu. Now, straight to the point, as an economist, what do you think about this proposed plan of increase in salaries?
Well, I would first want us to interrogate how we got to 40,000 as the new figure. Okay, I would want to see if this was done against presumptions or done against statistics. Was it mathematically, calculated? Did you take into consideration that the man has to pay school fees, the man has to take care of his health, the man has, and this is shared about maybe minimum family of 6. Now, if you're sharing 40,000 by a family of 6, what it simply means that what the man is earning is less than 5,000 naira. Is that what we're talking about? And then what will 5,000 naira do for an individual, on a monthly basis? Because that should be the base consideration. So my first worry will be the figure 40,000. Okay. My second worry will be that I am not a fan of minimum wage. I'd rather we talk living wage. And if we're going to be talking living wage, then we need to think it through. My third and maybe final for my opening will be, at what cost is this going to happen? Are they going to also, secure people's job, or are we going to be downsizing or right-sizing? Are people going to be losing jobs because government is not able to take everybody onto this new monetary system? This will be the worries for me.
All right. Yeah, I think he's making a lot of sense there.
Yes,
now, as an economist, what do you think this increase will do for the economy of our nation?
You see, the essence of looking into increase in salaries, wages, is just to take care of productivity. And when productivity is mentioned, there is much to attach to it. In my own opinion, the first thing you mentioned, that you call me a political economist, I would say that we have to look at the history of this minimum wage, 2019. What was 2019 to Nigerians? It was a political transition year. And we are also now, and at the same time also, I think, with apology to politicians to be, Professor, Labour Party is the party that I thought maybe they will come with a proposal to sell to the public. But I think also the ruling party also felt that it is the right time for them to strike. And that is why today, when you look at the minimum wage, like Professor guided, should be a living wage. But because of the legislative parameters used in deciding minimum wage or maximum wage, now the question is, it is necessary looking at the cost of living index used year on year for two reasons. If you take an average of a family that is earning 30,000 naira, an average family, if they are to consume only bread of 500 naira daily, when you times 500 naira times 30, you now look that even the transport to go to work is not there. And the second meal is also not there. And a complete meal is also not there. So it is high time not to deceive ourselves. Where an economy you find in the same structure, depending on the type of salary that individual enjoys, the compass salary consolidated, where all the benefit, all the potential benefit is being put together to advance to a single individual or household, you realize that health is attached to your salary, transport is attached to your salary, and other privileges that probably can keep your productivity. So now, it is not there. Why? Not only inflation. Where we got it wrong is that each wage bill that is passed, it's not only the amount that has been pegged, but also the amount to take care of inflationary trend annually. And that has not been followed. The salary was kept on 30,000, no review was made based on the wage bill. So therefore, it's now a compound. We agree that government is facing a lot of challenges in trying to look at the IGR and try to fund the deficit. But who is going to be in charge of all this? One is that the government must manage the economy. And in managing the economy, you manage the monetary policy rate. You manage not only the policy rate, you also manage what I call the efficiency of those workers. That efficiency can only be managed when you look at what they are producing at the little that is given to them. That is one angle. Two, inflation is mentioned worldwide. That inflation has been defined differently by many different economists. But the one I always cherish is the one that explains persistent, seemingly irresistible. So we have seen all. In one of our last episodes in this program, I put it forward to you when the inflation was 19.94%, and I say it's going to increase. And now we are not even speaking about food inflation. So when you put that on ground and you look at the nature, every household is facing a cost of living crisis.
Of course. That
cost of living crisis is very devastating, not only to the individual household, not only to his productivity, but to the economy at large. So for a minister to come to explain to Nigerians that there is need to look into this minus, negative, is a challenge to labor.
Dr. Okengo, you know, you had started this line of thought that you didn't think it was such a good idea. Now, when the common man hears salary increase, in our typical climb, what happens next in the economy?
Trust me, it is no longer exciting. When they hear salary increase, it means nothing to them. It actually doesn't, bring any excitement or any joy. Why? Because against that salary that you've increased from probably, like they said now, 40,000, you also still have a bag of rice increasing from 28,000 to 40,000 in the same breath. There's never been any time who had any salary increase, and then he lowered the cost of goods and services. And I'll tell you why, because there's never been any time we started by doing the right things. And what are the right things? Before you increase salary, increase productivity. Okay? And if you increase productivity and you had this surplus, it becomes a lot easier for everybody to now want to, because you don't borrow. Let me tell you what we're doing, and I find it a little bit strange. Okay? And this is what has kept us, held down. That we are borrowing to fund consumption. That's what it typically means. And I just asked the question, at what cost are you going to be increasing? Are you going to increase and everybody keeps his job? That's question number one. I can tell you directly that that's not possible. People are going to be losing their jobs. People are even losing their jobs when they're not increasing. So what do you do? Like in some countries like Kenya decided, okay, we're not going to increase. We might even reduce and take more people so that we'll get a lot more people into the safety nets. Let's do bread and butter, okay, up to the time we're able to get out of this headwind. Now, what we should be doing is, what are these programs we can be able to do to get out of a headwind and be able to get that guy who earns 30,000 to fly through it? There are three basic issues here, Lydia. First will be your rent.
Oh, yes.
Second will be your school fees. All right? Third, of course, will be your health. And then fourth will be, probably your transportation. Now, what has other countries of the world done? Either they intervened directly or they took a program to say to landlords, for the next 2 years, except you are, bringing security, bringing electricity, bringing extra this, bringing extra this, if you have a 4-bedroom house, you shouldn't charge more than 600,000 or 700,000 or X percentage for the next 3 years so that everybody can recover. Are you following what I'm saying? Now, when we're talking about these public transportation systems, I keep telling people, the CNG vehicles are all over the place. The electric, cars are all over the place. Okay? B2 was some kind of innovative introduction to be able to now weather some situation for a little while. After remember that the B2 came from Germany. Remembering also that the Mercedes-Benz also came from Germany. They had the technology to produce the Benz when they decided to go, for the B2, which was what was needed at that point in time. So, but what am I saying? Do I want everybody to earn 100,000 naira, 200,000 naira, 300,000 naira? That would be my greatest wish. But would I rather have come into this studio, everybody is my friend, and by the time I asked her, after 1 or 2 people, they say, oh, you know what, we had to downsize so that we can be able to meet. Now, what are you doing? You're creating more frustration. You're creating more crisis. And then the people who are supposed to be downsizing, nobody is talking about touching their salaries. This is my argument.
Okay. Now, let's pause here for now and hear from some Nigerians on the street on what their views are regarding the topic for our discussion. Our correspondent, Mila Lutua, will handle that.
Civil servants are going through a lot. Currently, the salary is low, and then I feel that the increased salary will also help them survive because, most of them have families as well. And then, if you pay them what they're paying them now, how will they survive with the economy? So, yeah, they probably won't take the work seriously. Yeah, if the money is low, but if it's more like motivation or incentive to like work harder.
It's the right time to increase the salaries of the civil servants because many civil servants, many have died, many are in hypertension. They can't meet the need of the family with the same salaries they are using. They can't meet the need.
Everybody knows that everything has increased. You understand? So giving civil servants an increase in pay pack have been long expected because by the law, it is supposed to be a kind of periodic something. You increase workers' salary from time to time to be able to meet up with inflationary trends that we all know.
The stand of the government is that there is need to give the civil servants more ability to purchase, more ability to have the goods and services that they desire. So it's not as if salary alone will be increased. Therefore, I support it because a better paid worker is a better motivated worker. And the way human beings behave is, if you do not give them what they think they deserve, they'll find a way of stealing it. Let me just use the crude word. They may now decide to steal it. Corruption could be said to have arisen because of this, for instance. So give them good pay, and then vices are likely to reduce more. But there should be supervision.
Welcome back. This is Nigeria Today, and our focus is on proposed plan to increase salaries by the federal government. I'm still with Dr. Emeka Okengu, former United Nations consultant, and political economist Yusha'u Aliyu. Let me come to Yusha'u. Now, the market is at the center of this. What do you perceive will happen to this sector? Talking about our market.
No, you see, when you talk of market, Professor has rightly pointed out, whatever that goes to market starts from the production line. And production line has a lot of cost involved. And when the costs continue to be high, whatever that is taken to the market will be high. And certain measures taken to check inflations, probably it depends on certain conditions. Let me be realistic to you. It has been argued severally that once you increase salaries, the inflation will emerge. That is not true. We have seen from 2019 when inflation, when the salaries was adjusted, it was not the forces of salary increase that changes the price in the market, like rightly pointed out. And since 2019, no adjustment was made based on the wage bill. But inflation is now hitting 20.52% without salary increase. So it is obvious that there are certain parameters that must be looked into before market is stabilized. The financial sector, especially the monetary policy aspect, where interest rate is very high, what you expect is you expect an increase in the cost of production. And once there is increase in cost of production, definitely prices will be increasing significantly. Not only that, the supply chains, the supply bottlenecks that has hindered most of the good produced in our local farms reaching the urban center. And even when you check the inflation based on the Bureau of Statistics, you realize the urban inflation is quite different from rural inflation. Why? Because transport cost has emerged and is changing prices daily. And so once the cost of energy continue to be high, once the cost of transportation continue to be high, there is no way you contain what is rightly to be done in the market. However, let me be holistic on this aspect of salary increase. Even if salary increase will not check inflation, the only thing is that you are compensating. Compensating who? Somebody who has not been honored. How? Why? Because based on the wage bill law, like rightly pointed out, there must be periodic adjustment to take care of that changes. And when that is not done, and being observed by a honorable Minister of Labor, who was part of the negotiating team, and now is speaking to Nigerian workers, everybody knows what transpired in all workers' life. If you want to get a right analysis, just try and get to the payroll of the workers generally. You will find out over 60% are indebted,
Of course.
grossly indebted. And for any effect to change their lifestyle, additional income is needed. And that is why those who are not on fixed income are always thriving better, because if you are in the market, right, like you rightly pointed out, I bought a bag of rice probably at 32 naira last month, and if it is 35 naira, the best thing, I will adjust the measures, I will adjust the price, I'll get back my money. But the worker is there without anything to be compensated. And that is why up to now, if workers go on strike, every household is grossly affected. So if we are to avoid what the minister has proposed, he has proposed something that Labour, I would say, failed to call the attention of the government. And it is also a proactive measure. We have to congratulate Dr. Chris Ngige for bringing this out at this critical time. But all the stakeholders, that's the Labour and the Market Association, must sit, not and to like the deficit experienced by the government. Government need to employ hands that will bring them prosperity. Because in 2019, just before COVID-19, the dream of the president, Mr. Buhari, his dream was collective prosperity. And after 3 years, that collective prosperity has not been achieved. But this can intervene.
Okay. Now, Dr. Okengu, from his submissions and your own thoughts, would you say, hold on, wait, not now?
See, the minister just mentioned only one indicator, transportation. Okay? There are so many other variables and factors that make up what you call the living wage. I am not a fan of minimum wage. I would always propagate and advocate living wage. You know why? Because they can give you that minimum wage and it creates more problems for you. Okay? It's like somebody who is under the water. And then you bring up a person, you have not brought out his nose, you just bring out his head and say, okay, well, I brought you out of the water. Because people are seeing his head above the water, he is still not breathing. So when you're talking about putting 10,000 naira to the salary of somebody who's earning 30,000 naira, you have practically done nothing. If we decide we want to do this minimum wage, let us do it based on living expectations. There's so many things you need to put into calculations. You're removing your first subsidy, you're removing, there's no social housing, there's no support anywhere for anybody, okay? Now, what you're now doing is that you're allowing this man to say, okay, well, I've increased your salary, because that's the position that government is going to be taking. Oh, we increase your salary, we put an extra 10,000. And I'm going to be saying, with a lot of respect, it is going to be deepening the person's frustration, because you come home, your wife says, oh, your salary has been increased. But it is motion in a barber's chair. It's important we know this. Okay, so part of what I'm saying is that, yes, it's a good thing. And again, I want to see where government is tilting to. Now, the minister also says we are going to start with ASU. Yes, the ASU is saying we are poorly paid, but that's not why ASU is on strike. ASU is on strike because of a lot of various factors to say the university systems, the physical infrastructure has collapsed.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
We don't have this. So if you're going to be looking at this thing from, oh, let us start taking the little. Like Ali, my brother, has said, Labour should have been the one to trigger this. But it's okay that the minister also triggers it, because he's Minister of Labour. Who knows what memos, who knows what discussions that have happened. But Lydia, I'm saying to you today, the minimum wage that we work in Nigeria will not be 1 naira less than 100,000 for a gate man to be able to pay his house, get into the market. Because, sister, hear me, 1 bag of rice planted, produced in Nigeria, in fact, beans is more expensive than rice. What are we talking about?
Yes, of course, you're a farmer, so I know you know all that. Exactly. Thank you. We know that things can only get better. We hope that things
I'm that optimistic too.
Get better. And this is where we call it a day, but first our appreciation goes to Dr. Emeka Okengu, former United Nations consultant. Thank you so much for your analysis and your submissions.
Pleasure, privilege to be here.
And also to Yushau Aliyu, political economist. It's always a pleasure to have you for discussion on subjects like this.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
And our viewers, we appreciate you for being a part of this discussion. Remember, Nigeria Today comes up every day, Monday to Friday, except Saturdays and Sundays by 7:30 p.m. And you can also watch this episode and other ones at www.youtube.com/NGNews24hub. I'm Lydia Odijochi. Thanks for watching. See you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.